So if you went to someone's house and they had ketchup on the table and they had mustard on the table and mayonnaise on the table, would you think differently?
Mayonnaise on the table, that is salmonella. Like,
But when you go to a restaurant, the mayonnaise is on the table.
yeah, that's the buffet that you went to. Mayonnaise on the, just raw mayonnaise out on the table. Here, do you have your poopery ready? Because I've got this mayonnaise that's been sitting out here for 2 days.
This is John Dutton, and welcome to another edition of I Take Your Point podcast. I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Miss Lynn, last name not relevant for now. One of the things that we are proud of is all of you who have joined in week over week to listen to us pontificate on many different topics. And as you know, my co-host can be a little spicy at times, and she has made some friends and some frenemies along the way. That said, Miss Lynn, how's your week been?
Fantastic. Thank you for asking. You?
I'm always better than I deserve. I love the little bow that you have on your neck.
This is not a bow, John, C player. This would be a necklace that's made with a flower. I know that that's probably something that is foreign to you and your hobby lobbiness, but that is called fashion, sir.
Yes, it's fashion someplace. I'll leave it up.
Hey, John.
This week, stories caught my attention. We had a conversation about Tyler Perry and what he was doing in the community and what he was doing to help individual creatives advance their career. Mr. Perry finds himself in the news again this week, where he had a young gentleman who accused him of sexual harassment and other issues to the tune of $260 million in terms of what he's suing him for. And so that caused me to think of a couple of things. One, in terms of individuals who may be sexually fluid or individuals who may be closeted, not saying that Tyler Perry is any of those. But the interesting thing was, when you have someone like Tyler Perry, and this is sort of bleeds into the conversation we were having a few weeks ago about Sean Combs, who clearly has, based on the conversations that are taking place in the court documents, relationships with both men and female. What are your thoughts in terms of the individuals who may be sexually fluid or individuals who may be open to having relations with individuals of same sex?
If I'm going to start off with allegedly, nothing's been proven with Sean. Speculation, conjecture. And then second, the conversation that we should be having and that I would prefer to have is the people that are weaponizing someone's authentic self to take advantage and to promote themselves. So whether you sleep with a man, woman, he, she, they, whatever you do, that's your preference. That is who you are. And that is of no concern and none of my business. But when someone uses that to promote themselves and they weaponize your authentic self to promote them, I have a problem with that. That's the conversation we should be having as a community.
Okay. When you talk about someone weaponizing, what do you mean?
I mean, what these allegations are, if they had, I don't know what happened, but let's just say that someone maybe approached you and you identify as heterosexual, and this person identifies as non-binary or whatever they identify as, and they approach you. Okay. Everybody has an opportunity to see if somebody's interested. And if you're not interested, move on. But that doesn't give you the right to then take that and say, oh, they assaulted me, they did whatever. That's not your right. Don't weaponize who somebody is so that you can take advantage of that. And that's what a lot of times I see this, that people, if they are closeted, they feel like they have to be because of, I don't know, maybe their celebrity, maybe their fan base, whatever it is. It's their decision to come out. It's not anyone else's decision. It's their decision. And for someone to take an incident and then say, oh, I'm going to expose you or I'm going to do this because you're gay. So what? I'm concerned about you, sir, or whoever it is that's weaponizing that person's authentic self to promote yourself. That's my problem.
I take your point with respect to individuals possibly using someone's sexual identification as a weapon. I was listening to a podcast over the weekend, and Keke Palmer was talking to the Breakfast Club, and one of the things that she talked about in terms of her sexual identity, it was exposed by her ex-partner. And so she felt the need to speak out on it. It's something that she had not discussed before.
It's not his right. How is that his right? If she wants to come out, then she comes out.
They share a child. And anytime you have it.
I don't care what you share. I don't care if you share an ice cream cone. What myself and what I feel comfortable with, that's not your right to come out and say, well, she's this, she's that. Dude, stay in your lane.
I disagree. Anytime that you have a child.
I'm going to go ahead and let you articulate and pontificate your point, sir.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you allowing me to do that.
I'm going to yield the floor to you.
Okay. So in the case of Keke Palmer and her former significant other, I get that he was upset. I get that he was mad. I also get that he felt that this was going to damage her brand. And so from that standpoint, he was weaponizing her sexuality in an attempt to get back at her by virtue of exposing something that she may not have wanted to be out in the public. That said, there are other individuals who do try to go back and forth with respect to their sexuality and use that to, in some ways, curry favor with individuals or put individuals in compromising positions so that they can take advantage of them. We're not saying that this is what it is that an individual like Tyler Perry did. We're not saying this is something that individuals in his space may have done. But with an individual like Sean Combs, I think it's been proven that he is doing that or has done that with respect to his sexual fluidity.
Gosh, John, I just had an epiphany. I should have spent a little bit more time trying to figure out what Willis was talking about. And then now I could apply that and find out, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about individuals who may use their positions of power to take advantage of individuals who may be seeking to advance their career. Not to say that the individuals who either Tyler Perry or Sean Combs were involved in weren't complicit in some ways because they sort of knew what these men were about.
May I interject? Because I just want to clarify and confirm what I'm hearing. What I heard you say is that some men or people in power, positions of power, would elect to be fluid with their sexuality to take advantage of someone else. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that these men who may be sexually fluid allow themselves to use their powers of authority with individuals who may be seeking to advance their career.
What is that? How's that different from a cis man and a cis woman, and that cis man using his power to take advantage of that cis woman because she wants to? Like, what does his sexuality have to do with the price of tea and, I don't know, Jamaica?
Well, I think from the price of tea in China is, I think, what you're trying to say.
No, Jamaica.
Jesus, there's no tea in Jamaica anyway.
You know.
You're killing the metaphors. I think the point is this, that you talk about an individual being their authentic self. I don't have a problem with people being their authentic self, but when you try to hide behind who it is that you may be and try to protect that at the same time out here doing things to take advantage of individuals, I have a problem with that.
I can't with this. I can't. I know I need to be quiet and allow you to, but I can't continue with this. It makes no sense. Someone's sexuality doesn't have anything to do. Those are two separate issues. They can be. They are. It's not can be. They are. They're two separate issues.
They can be. They can be if you are not using that to, let's say, to gain entrance into a club of men who may not be attracted to you if they know that you're not swinging that way. I mean, we've all had individuals who approached us, and like you said, going back to your original statement, if you're not swinging that way, then you can tell someone, I'm not swinging that way. And they pretty much move on.org, as you would say.
It doesn't, because I don't swing that way, doesn't mean, like, for me personally, I've had women approach me before, and I just don't, that's not my thing. But that doesn't mean that they're still not going to approach me because they're like, oh, she doesn't swing that way. I don't find her attractive. Makes no sense. Your argument is weak.
Well, you know what? It may be weak. Jeez, it may be weak, but it's my argument. And so we can agree to disagree with respect to that and with respect to Tyler Perry and individuals who may or may not be sexually fluid. I think where I come down on is own who you are and be proud of who you are. I get that some individuals may want to protect aspects of who they are, and it's no one's business at the end of the day. But you make it someone's business if you're using your positions of power to exploit people. That's where I think I have a problem with that.
I do. I hear what you're trying to say, and let me try and make your argument for you. That what I'm hearing you say with that is that they are exploiting elements of themselves or someone else to elevate whatever they want. That's what I'm hearing you say. Now, for that I'm trying to equate that to cis. That I like something, and this person knows that I like that. So they were like, okay, well, I have a lot of this candy. Someone says, hey, I got a lot of candy here, little girl. Do you want that? Because they know I love candy. And so they use that to put themselves in a position where they could take advantage of me. That's what I'm hearing you say. And for that, I mean, I can kind of get on board with it, but I still think these are two separate issues. And I also want to say that someone else's journey is not your journey. So if they don't feel comfortable talking about elements of their personal life, that's their journey. Why in the world would they need to talk about personal things because you think they should? There are plenty of personal things in your life, I'm sure, that people don't know. I'm sure you put ketchup on. Okay, I do that. I put the ketchup on the eggs, but whatever.
Speaking of that, and I take your point, I think we both agree here. A person's sexual identification or a person's preference in terms of their sexual partners is completely their business. What we both disagree on is the degree to where someone can use that to either put someone else in a compromising position or to take advantage of someone if he or she is trying to advance their career. And in the case of Sean Combs, it was to take advantage and put someone in a compromising position where you could then use that to then blackmail them later on. With respect to, Cassie Ventura or someone else.
Yes.
With respect to Tyler Perry, the allegation is that this young gentleman was looking to advance his career in Hollywood, and Tyler was befriending him and having conversations about his relationships and asking intimate questions about his relationships. And how I read it was more of Tyler being a friend to this gentleman. He indicated that he spent the night over at Tyler's place at one particular point here in Georgia, and Tyler then made some sexual advancements. Those advancements were rebuffed. And then he claims that Mr. Perry then cut off the spigot in terms of the roles that he was being offered or other things that were extended to him prior to him telling him no.
So the quid pro quo of it all. Right. So I understand that part. And that would be something that would have to have an investigation. Because again, I go back to the Sean Combs thing. If I'm not dating you, I'm not obligated to give you gifts. I'm not obligated to do anything with you. But if it's a quid pro quo, I'm an employee of yours and I rebuff your attention and your advances, and then you retaliate against me, that's a whole different thing. And that could be, it doesn't matter if you're cis, if you're non-binary, it doesn't matter what you are. What you're using, the tool that you're using to influence that person, that doesn't matter. The tool doesn't matter. It's the action that matters.
I will agree with you on that aspect. You brought up something interesting that caught my attention just now, and you rarely do that. There's no catching my attention saying something.
This flower that I have on, that caught.
Yeah, for reasons you don't want to know.
Whatever, John.
You talked about ketchup on your
eggs. Yes, I put it on a lot of things.
I read an article today that actually Heinz is rebranding their ketchup so that individuals know that it is now a breakfast food item. And because you just said that you put ketchup on your eggs, obviously they're thinking about people who have bad taste like you who would put ketchup on the eggs. And so you should know now that Heinz is actually marketing their ketchup to individuals like you who have bad taste in terms of where you and how you allocate your condiments.
I wouldn't eat a breakfast taco without hot sauce and ketchup. No. I've always had ketchup on my eggs. They're like behind the times. Old news. Old news. Move on.
Be behind the times when they literally are the number one brand in terms of ketchup and condiments.
I mean, everybody does that. Everybody puts ketchup on their eggs.
No, everyone.
It's not a big revelation.
No, everyone does. You do.
But they say
you're a messy eater.
What does that have to do with anything?
So, speaking of ketchup, this is something that just popped in my mind. I grew up in a household where the ketchup was in the fridge, but there are people who have ketchup that's on the table. How did you grow up?
In the refrigerator.
If you went to someone's house and they had ketchup on the table and they had mustard on the table and mayonnaise on the table, would you think differently?
We have mayonnaise on the table. That is salmonella. No.
But when you go to a restaurant, the mayonnaise is on the table.
Again, that's the buffet that you went to. Who's having mayonnaise on just raw mayonnaise out on the table?
If you go to a diner,
do you have your poopery ready? Because I've got this mayonnaise that's been sitting out here for 2 days.
No, but when you go to a diner, they put mayonnaise on the table.
That instant. They don't keep it out there.
How do you know that?
That's unsanitary, John.
How do you know this?
they're going to get a 4, like a negative rating on the restaurant thing. No, you can't do that.
I don't believe it.
Fine.
I believe that they keep the mayonnaise, the ketchup.
Nobody does that. They don't put real mayonnaise. Do you understand science?
I understand science, yes, but I was an English major, but I do understand science.
Don't leave mayonnaise out. Ketchup, I mean, okay. I don't think I've ever been to someone's house where the ketchup's out. Yes, to a restaurant that the ketchup is out. I don't know how long they keep it out. Ketchup, mustard, sure. Mayonnaise, absolutely not. I'm not eating that.
Okay. So this reminds me of another story I was having with my brother-in-law a couple of weeks ago. And he was talking about going to his son's baby shower. And this was another family. He and my sister had gone to the baby shower. And these people had apparently made some meals and they invited them in as a family because they were getting ready to become, grandparents or whatever. So my brother-in-law said they brought out this food and he's like, he looked at them like, I'm not going to eat the food because I don't just eat anyone's cooking. And I'm that way. I'm very particular about people's cooking and what it is and how it is that it may be prepared.
But you go to a buffet. Interesting. Carry on. Wayward son.
So you strike me as an individual who would just eat anyone's cooking.
I don't eat anyone's cooking. At work, I had a Tale of Two Cities little list. And so I would write down on the list anyone that said they had a cat, they're on my list. Anyone that went to the bathroom and they didn't wash their hands, they're on my list. So when we had a potluck, I'm like, yes, oh my God. Okay, I won't be eating that. I'm not eating that. So no, I don't eat just anyone's cooking. And I know I'm going to offend the cat people, but those cats just jump up on the counter with their little cat fur, and I'm like, no.
But you have a dog.
My dog can't jump on the countertop, and I'm not cooking on the floor.
You're talking about animals, and you're talking about sanitary.
My dog is not on top of the counter walking around with his doggy fur.
No one's
like cat on the floor. Yes, they are. I saw it.
You saw it in Enid, Oklahoma. You didn't see it anyplace else.
People that don't wash their hands after the bathroom. Because if I'm in the bathroom and they're in the bathroom and, I like to take note of their shoes. And if they just walk immediately out.
Take note of their shoes. So you look at people's shoes in the bathroom?
Be eating anybody's food, John. Like, we need to have a list.
You're a strange person. You look at people's shoes when they're in the bathroom to see if they wash their hands.
Absolutely. I'm not the only one.
You really are.
I'm not the only one.
You literally are. So if they walk...
People come to me.
So did I get this straight? You look at people's shoes to make certain that they stop at the sink to wash their hands.
Yes. And they need to wash their hands for a good, like we need a happy birthday song. You just can't, I'm out of here. No, you're done. You're on my list.
That silence that you hear is, again, allowing your crazy to shine through so that everyone can see that you are crazy.
I rarely get sick.
No, because you're busy making everyone else sick. Boom. And I know that you also, and we've had this discussion, and this is a part of the discussions that you mentioned in the bathroom. You have this thing about, obviously, the poopery, and then you have the issue with toilet seats. Toilet seats being either up when flushing occurs because you believe that can contaminate the bathroom.
It does. Let's just say that you're in a hotel and you don't have a separate space for your toilet, right? You flush, fecal matter flies all over the place. Do you think I want that on my toothbrush? No, I don't. So just close it. It's just rude. And also, I didn't think about this, but somebody said, because they came to my house and they kept leaving the toilet seat up. And I was like, okay. So you should model whatever's happening in the house. Like, I don't allow shoes in my house. So take the shoes off and I will give you slippers. Like, everyone that comes as a guest, you get slippers because I don't allow shoes in the house. If I keep the toilet seat down, keep the toilet seat down. And so this person kept doing so. I just gave them a gentle reminder of a text message with an article linking out to why you should keep the toilet seat down. They didn't read it. They thought that it was because I thought a snake would come up in there. And I said, oh my God, I didn't even think about it.
No wonder no one goes to your house. You giving people text messages about cleaning.
Keep the toilet seat down. Everybody knows it's gross. Don't do that. It travels and it stays in the air for a long period of time. Just shut the toilet seat down and keep it down because apparently a snake can come up next. If I go into the bathroom in the middle of the night and the toilet seat is up, somebody's getting up too.
Okay.
Because I know I didn't do it.
I can see that. I can see, yes, with respect to the toilet seat being up or toilet seat being down, that aspect. What I don't understand is the toilet seat being down, as you indicated in previous conversations, when an individual is flushing the toilet. I don't get that. But
You've never heard of this?
no, I've never heard of it.
So you just have fecal matter all over your toothbrush?
No, my toothbrush is covered, thank you. So no, there's not fecal matter because the toilet is in a separate place and it's cordoned off with a door.
If you were in a hotel room, would you do it?
Would I what?
Would you leave the toilet seat up and then flush? Because that's not, usually it's right there next to the shower, depending on where you're staying.
You know what? I never thought about that. I'm pretty sure I have.
Yeah. It's gross. I mean, that's you. It's okay. We've already established you're a C player, so that's fine. It's good. I love having diverse friends. Like we have friends that, know things, friends that learn things, and people that do things that are disgusting. That's okay. I love all of you. You're my friend. Diversity is great.
Speaking of friends, I wanted to bring up some comments that we received on the last episode. And part of it was individuals taking you to task about a couple of things. I know that you had, and some agreeing with you, full disclosure, some did agree with you, rarely. You did have some individuals appreciate your dry sense of humor and your unique take on some things. So what were some of the comments that stood out to you with respect to the previous episode? The comments were amazing. Like if you haven't gone in and listened and engaged with the community, you should, because there've been some very thoughtful, provoking comments. I have one in particular that I want to save for last, but there was one about my praying over pancakes. And so people were not keen on that. Someone had put in there about spirituality being the highest form of intimacy. And it really made me think about it. And I think that one of the reasons why I feel that that's pretentious and potentially over the top is because I hold spirituality as the highest form of intimacy. And so for you to disclose that on a first date, I just feel like it's too soon. It would be like me sleeping with you and you're like, I love you. You lust me. You do not love me. You lust me. It's too soon. But that's me, because how I prioritize my spirituality. I wouldn't share my soul and my spirit with anyone because my spirituality is so personal to me. It's a very personal experience for me. So I thought that was interesting, and it helped me to really reframe why I thought that you praying over the pancakes on the first day is going to lead to you being the Dateline killer. Probably still are, but whatever. Yeah, I totally disagree with that. One of the things that I think that you just talked about earlier was individuals being authentic and bringing your authentic self to the table when you're having interactions with folks. I consider prayer to be the ultimate in terms of an individual being who they are, and saying that I'm not going to change who I am and how I show up with respect to receiving a meal or my daily activities to conform to make you feel comfortable. So that's how I look at it. If I'm Muslim or someone who prays X number of times a day, I'm someone who's spiritual or religious and decide that before I partake of a meal, I'm going to pray, or before I do something, I'm going to pray. And that's making you feel uncomfortable. It's not about them. It's about you. That is correct. I'm pretty sure I said it was about me. Yeah. So like most things in my life. So from that standpoint, I think that people who do that are bringing who they are, and they're saying, take me for who I am. I'm not going to conform to make you feel better about what issue you may have with respect to religion or spirituality. That's a fair point. I appreciate you articulating that. I will still put it into that might be a signed column, but I take your point on that. Well, you know what? There's not an episode that goes by where you're not taking my point on something. Proven on most of this stuff. But with respect to spirituality and religion, I do agree with you that if someone is going to be giving a full-blown sermon before partaking of a meal, then that's a red flag. Or they bring out a Bible and place it on the table and tell me that I'm going to hell. That is a little too much and a little too extra, because I found in my experience that the individuals who are over the top religious and spiritual are out there doing the most dirt. So you have to be cognizant of that. And I know you have issues with deacons anyway. What is your issue with deacons? Hi, sister. Listen, sister wants to hear the word. She doesn't want to feel your eyes on her. Damn deacons are always doing something. What did you do to deacons? You did something to the deacons. Damn deacons are doing it. Deacons have forever been part of the backbone of the
Believe you
church, and
brought
here
that
you
up.
are offending the deacons.
I can't believe you brought up the deacons. That's a private conversation. Well, I'm sorry, what you
Because
say?
you have issues with deacons.
I do have issues. I do. The deacon is probably the date. Like, now I'm really going to get in trouble.
No, tell us, talk to us. This is a safe space. What did the deacons do to you?
Saying that when you're in church and you're just trying to hear the word, and the deacons are like, "Hey, Sister Bill." No, Sister Bill doesn't want to hear.
So the deacons is shooting their shot. What do you have with the deacons shooting their shot?
You cannot in this church, sir. Absolutely not. Just do your deacon duties, whatever that is.
What is wrong with
It
the
doesn't extend to this sister.
deacon? Is taking advantage of the opportunity that presented itself.
No, your job, do your job, deacon. I'm not your job. So he's trying to bring something to somebody, having Christ's name called out in vain. I'm sure he's doing something. Not over here.
So you're blocking your blessing. The deacon could have been the one that can bring you closer to Christ, can bring you.
Yeah, I bring him closer to Christ. That's what he's hoping.
Pray for her family. Pray for her because she needs help. When you think about what it is that we're currently faced with, we'd be remiss if we did not take the time to talk about the events that are going on in the political space with the bombing of Iran last.
Well, I want to let me just pause for just a moment, because that, when we were talking about the comments, that was one of the comments that resonated with me. And it went back to an episode where we were talking about people not being able to focus on two things at once, that we get sidetracked by like a sideshow or whatever, and we're not paying attention. And so I am very curious to hear your take on what's going on. But that's what I'm saying, is that we're so busy worrying about Elon Musk and Trump not playing fairly, and now they're sharing a happy meal in the play box or whatever, sandbox. And there are real world events that are going on, right? So it didn't just happen overnight. They've been planning this. While we're over here looking at memes, other things are happening over here. So thank you for allowing me to say that, but I really do want to hear your take on this.
No, I don't think it was planned. I don't think that anything that the shit show is planned, or most things that he would do is planned. I think that he found himself or finds himself in a perilous political predicament with ratings that are not where he wants them to be. If you think about the last couple of weeks in terms of the things that have happened, there's been the fight with foreign leaders. There's been the military parade last week. And this week we get the war in Iran. The conversation with respect to Iran and Israel began a couple of weeks ago. It's not like that came out of the blue. We knew that Israel had issues with Iran. That was, an unprovoked aggression by Israel against Iran. And so from that standpoint, Israel was hoping that the United States would get involved. Now, the shit show being as thin-skinned as he is, he saw it as an opportunity to sort of level set and reset, I believe, his political position, and decided that he was going to bomb, for all intents and purposes, facilities that were either not being used or facilities where we don't know whether or not there was nuclear provisions there. I think the part that bothers me is you have a lot of individuals who did not vote for the lady with the big laugh, the lady with the beliefs that they felt that she was going to get us into war. Now those individuals who had those strong beliefs about her are now faced with the fact that the United States is essentially in a war of not our choosing. And so I say all that to say, I'm disappointed in where we are as a nation. I'm disappointed that we continue to get ourselves pulled into what's going on in the Middle East, sometimes because we defend Israel more than probably we should. And one of the things that I think that does is it emboldens the individuals who may not like America to say, okay, I'm going to continue to hate you. I'm going to continue to make my kids or poison my kids against you because of what it is that you may be doing to our country. And I don't think we're going to see the fallout for this year. I think it's going to be years in the future where we'll see the fallout.
Hey, I appreciate you sharing that. I think that this president is thin-skinned, but I always expect a war when a Republican gets into office because it's financially advantageous to them. So the manufacturing, they're usually owned by Republicans that are supporting this war effort. I've always thought that it is a financial benefit for people when we go into war or when we enter into a war zone. And we can think about Bush when we were doing that and the ties that Cheney had to the different industries. They benefit from it. Well, it's bigger than that, but there is a financial part to it that I think that plays a part in the decision. What do you think?
I don't think it's just Republicans. Obama went to war, Clinton went to war, Biden went to war. And so all presidents go to some type of war. The problem that I'm having with this is this was not a war of anyone who was a imminent threat to the United States. So from that standpoint, it was a war that we have sort of been the aggressor on. I don't know whether or not we yet understand the fallout of this. I mean, obviously, we'll look and see what the stock market does. When you go to get gas next week, if gas is $5 an hour, then we'll know that something is going on. I think the issue that I'm having is individuals who are hypocrites and say, okay, war with Democrats are in power is bad, but war when the shit show starts, it is good. We have individuals who have now flip-flopped on a host of issues with respect to how it is that we go to war and in what manner we go to war. I don't have a problem if we go to war, but let's do it the right way. And let's make that the individuals who need to be caught in the loop or in the loop on knowing what needs to happen informed. My understanding is this incident happened. None of the leadership on the Democratic side was given the heads up.
Wow.
This was going to happen. It was the leaders on the Republican side who were given that heads up. That's what I have an issue with. And I also have an issue with the fact that we've seen this administration, speaking of religion and spirituality, we've seen this administration use religion as a wedge issue for Democrats, specifically with respect to Israel, whether it's on colleges or whether it's in business, now whether it's with foreign policy. We've seen them use the Israel-Jewish alliance to advance their theory of the case in terms of what we should be doing as a nation or where we should be spending our time, effort, and resources. I have a problem with that.
With too, but it's part of this playbook that we've done for centuries, right? So using religion, weaponizing the religion, if you want to talk about that, it's always effective. It's been going on in the Middle East forever. I mean, they've been fighting for thousands of years. Like, when is this going to be over? And so if you look at that, it's a good way to distract. It's a good way to advance your situation. And so why not use the religion to divide? And I think about this president, and even with his first term, he used religion. I don't spend a lot of time in church just because it's hot in there for a person like me.
And you're running from the Deacons.
That I don't, but I just growing up didn't have the politicalness in a church. And so going into church after this president took office, just how it has had the religion and the political convergence. And it's uncomfortable for me because for me, again, my spiritual self is independent of this external world. It's completely independent. It is very internal to me. And so for you to invite that into a place where I need to feel closer to God, for me, I don't feel like it's right. That's just me. And so they've used that.
Yeah, if you look at the comments that he made last night where he invoked God in his comments multiple times, God is just not on the United States side. So you're saying that God is on your side, and that means that I'm good, they're evil.
It's again dehumanizing people, right? So if God is on our side, then these people must be evil, and I can justify my actions because they're not godly.
So that is what I think a lot of people have with organized religion, that we take that zero-sum game that I'm good, you're bad, and everything that I do is good, everything that you do and everything that you stand for is bad. And you have individuals who are either caught up in the middle in terms of the crossfire, individuals who are ill-informed and not thinking about the long-term repercussions of their votes and how it is that now those votes that, you thought that the lady with the terrible laugh was going to do you harm, and now you find yourself in a situation where you're at war and you might be spending $10 for a gallon of gas. All because you did not like a laugh.
Oh, and they can justify that by his words, the way he's positioning everything. And so people will be they will be okay with it because of the way that he's positioning. So again, he may not be the smartest, but he is a master manipulator. He manipulates people's emotions, he manipulates his words. And for that, it is effective, right? So people are going to be okay because, again, God is on the side of Americans. So if you're an American, you're protected by the grace of God. If you're something else, then you're the devil. And for me, it doesn't work that way.
You know what? I take your point on it, and I agree with you that we have to have more thoughtful dialogue about religion. We have to have the conversation about America's relationship with Israel and the Jewish conversation. That is a topic I understand that, there are strong feelings on both sides. But I also believe that we're raising a generation of individuals who may not view the American-Israel relationships in the manner that the older generations view it. We've been, in some ways, in the older generation, pro-Israel. What I see and hear from a lot of the younger folks, the Gen Zs, the generation, is more aligning with what it is that's happening in Palestine and happening in places where they see them being oppressed. So thank you for, again, indulging me on a host of a couple of different topics. I'm glad that I was able to enlighten you on a few things. I know that can be difficult, and I know that you have issues with deacons and religion and spirituality and things of that sort. Talk to me about how it is that you're feeling about the comments that you're getting. I know that in some ways, some of them have been sort of hard on you, because you are a likable person. So you're like Hillary.
Wow.
Is there something that you have learned thus far in this journey?
No, I really appreciate the comments, even those that disagree with me. I think there's always an opportunity to learn and to take in information to either adjust your thinking, think about something else, or to learn more about it. And so I always appreciate reading them because there are times where I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Let me read up on it, or let me have another conversation about it. So I do appreciate that. I do, hope that they will be able to see the error in their ways and that I'm right. But just kidding. No, I do appreciate it. I encourage everyone, hopefully, that you do feel comfortable commenting and engaging, because it does inform what we're talking about. And hopefully it will also bring about a stronger community, because we do need to talk about some of these issues. There was a gentleman that had made a post about Sean Combs and making sure that we are being diligent about the law, right? And so he made a very long post, a read worth reading. I think was very articulate, very well positioned.
Yeah, I think the thing that I've learned is that we can't just talk about one thing. We have to be multifaceted in terms of learning and understanding several different issues. And that's why we covered different topics each episode, because we're not just singly focused on American Israel, or singly focused on sexuality, or singly focusing on spirituality and religion. We're focused on all of it. And as such, we need to be able to have conversations about all of it.
And that's one of the things, John, that I really like about having platforms like this. When you think about representation of Black people in the media, that a lot of times it's just a type or a stereotype of what we are. We're so much more. We're a richer community. And so having these conversations that highlight the richness of us is important, because we're not just doing this one thing. We are many things. And so we don't get an opportunity to explore that in the media all the time, where our counterparts, there's lots of different representations of them. We get to be stereotyped as one thing, but we're so much more than that.
Yes, I agree. I take your point on that and agree with that. Guys, thank you for spending time with us on this wonderful day. Hopefully you take some time to do something nice for yourself. And while you're at it, take some time to do something nice for someone else. Until we talk to you next time, be safe.
Well, thanks for joining us for another lively discussion. This podcast is a production of the SME Media Group, LLC. All rights are reserved. If you like this episode, click on the link in the right-hand corner and check out additional content. Also, be sure to subscribe to the I Take Your Point podcast to ensure you're getting all of your content. Until next time, take care and be well.